Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we are going to be talking about interview preparation, and specifically different techniques and strategies that you can use to answer the question in a structured manner to make it clear and concise. During any interview, when you are answering questions, you want to make sure that you are giving a structured answer that is clear and coherent to make it super easy for the interviewers to know exactly what you're saying. In doing this, you'll be able to communicate everything that you want to say in a manner that is really easy to understand. Having rehearsed a structure to use before you interview is key in order to do this, so that when you do give the answer to your question, it is slick and clean, and you're able to deliver a high quality answer consistently every time that you're asked a question within a time limit. Okay, so let's start off with some general points that you might find helpful. Firstly, you want to make it as easy as possible for the interviewer as well as for yourself. I interview students all of the time, and sometimes it gets to a certain point of the day when I start to feel really tired and my enthusiasm drops, even though it may have been the best day ever. As an interviewee, you can take this into account and make sure that everything that you say is clear and that you're giving the interviewer exactly what they want to hear. In the same way that you want to make sure your personal statement is really clear, you also want to make sure that every answer that you give to an interviewer is also really easy to understand. Secondly, remember that people relate more to real-world examples. And it's often really obvious if people are just like making things up on the spot or just telling lies. You want to avoid that at all costs and instead learn the art of storytelling. This is going to be really useful when something unexpected comes up, but you're still able to just reel off examples from the back of your head. Sometimes you'll be asked specifically to give an example about a time when you, or to tell a story, but even if the question doesn't ask you that specifically, you're still able to do so. So remember not to waffle and not to bore the interviewer. Make sure that you are concise, that you're giving very specific points. Use examples that are interesting and unique to you, as this will make you stand out. Number 3 is to make sure that everything that you say links back to medicine. One of the most common mistakes that I see students do time and time again is to give a really great example or to tell an amazing story about something that they experienced, but then they never link it back to medicine at the end. Remember, if you are applying to medical or dental school, everything that you say has to relate back to that. Link all of your answers to why everything that you've experienced is important in medicine and how you learnt different skills that will make you a great doctor. Okay, but how can you make sure that the answer that you give is comprehensive and coherent? Well, here are 5 tips that might help you. Number 1 is to be aware of how long you're speaking and the length of your answer. Sometimes people waffle for way longer than they need to, and the point of what you're trying to say just goes missing. It shows a lot of confidence and intelligence to be able to articulate a point clearly and then stop. You don't need to keep going and fill out the rest of your time. This may then even free up more time for follow-up questions that an interviewer may have. Remember, it's just about giving a clear and concise answer with a link to why it would make you a great doctor. Secondly, you want to make sure that you understand what you're being asked. Again, very common mistake. Students don't actually understand the question and then give an answer that just has nothing to do with what they're being asked. It takes skill to be able to listen properly, to pick out keywords from a question, to make sure that you really understand what they're saying to you and then relay something relevant back to an interviewer. If you have practiced answering your questions before the interview, sometimes a question might sound familiar to something that you've heard before, but it might not be exactly the same. This can catch you out, so make sure that you are alert and that you're listening actively. Number 3 is to use true and interesting examples when you are giving your answer. By giving an example that is unique to you, you are demonstrating that you have gone out of your way to seek these experiences, which will work very positively in your favor. It's also a very subtle way of demonstrating that you've put a lot of time and dedication into the career already. One of my personal top tips to students is to have 4, maybe 5 examples of different experiences or scenarios that you've encountered just in the back of your mind. Not all of them actually have to be medically related, but they can be something that you have experienced at your part-time job, or when you're doing some volunteering, or when you were at uni or school, for example. For more information specific to work experience, then check out this video up here. Moving on to number 4, you want to use strong and definitive words when you're giving your answer. Sometimes students come across very shy and almost afraid to make themselves look positive, but you should be assertive and confident in your interview. At the end of the day, you're trying to show an interviewer that you have the skills, that you are the right person for that medical or that dental school, and that there's no reason why they shouldn't accept you. Finally, you want to use a structure to help keep you from rambling and to make sure that your answer is clear and comprehensive. Very common interview questions usually start with, "Tell me about a time when ... It's super important to have practiced using a structure so that when you answer the question, interviewers are like, wow, that was amazing. There are different strategies and techniques that you could use to help you with this, but today I'm focusing on SCARE. SCARE stands for scene, which is where you set the scene and you give a little bit of context about what was going on. C is for challenge. This is where you talk about what went wrong, what was the situation, what was the problem. A is action, which is where you are telling the interviewer what you did in that situation. R is result, and this is where you want to demonstrate the positive outcome of your action, so what your actions achieved. And finally, E is for evaluate. This is where you tell the interviewer what you learned from this situation, all of the skills that you gained, and how this will help you in your medical or your dental career. This was just a very brief whistle-stop tour of the SCARE acronym. There are many other strategies and techniques that you could use. For more information, check out our website. So before we end this video, I wanted to give you guys some interviewer pet peeves so that you are aware of what to look out for and what to avoid during an interview. The first one that I wanted to mention is something that I touched on briefly, and that is exaggeration and lying. It's often very obvious and really clear when someone just doesn't really know what they're saying and they're trying to think of something and make up an answer on the spot. This shows me that you haven't prepared and that you're not quick at thinking on your feet. It also doesn't help me to trust you and trust your ability to answer my question. So one thing I would say is, if you're not sure, just tell them, can I have 15 seconds? Can I have 30 seconds just to think? And by saying that, it's not going to penalize you. It actually is going to strengthen the answer that you'll then be able to give, because you're going to think about things, you'll be able to think about how you're going to structure what you're saying. And then I have confidence that what you're going to say is true. Also, if you are caught out lying, this could really damage your chances of getting in. So avoid lying at all costs. Linking onto that is to avoid cliche examples. Obviously, there are questions when people might have a very similar reasoning for wanting to do something. Tell me why you want to study medicine, or tell me why you want to be a doctor is a really great example. Many people might feel that they want to help people and they might have the same reasons for wanting to study medicine. However, I would choose examples and stories that are unique and interesting to you, because that's what's going to make you stand out. Again, try to give genuine and real life stories so that I am interested and intrigued in what you're saying. And then finally, one thing that is a huge pet peeve is arrogance. Being a doctor is a privilege, and not everyone gets the opportunity to sit an interview for medical school. So even though you should feel proud and really happy that you are there and that you're getting the opportunity, being arrogant and rude is never okay. In fact, it's so good to see students who are kind and smiling and passionate about their answers. Okay, so that is everything for today's video. I really hope that you learned something and that you picked up on a few things that you can use to help improve your interview skills. For more information on one-on-one coaching and mentoring, check out our website. If you want a reliable source that's going to help you prepare for your interviews even further, then check out this video here.